Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye in Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. In Tanzania, a tough end to voting day in the economic capital, Dar es Salaam, as police are deployed to the streets following protests during parliamentary and presidential polls. Also, in Sudan, the WHO warns that hundreds have been killed in the RSF paramilitaries' takeover of the Darfuri city of El-Fasher. Reports have mounted of the brutal treatment of civilians caught in the midst of a war that began in 2023 between the paramilitary and the army. Also, the Paris Salon du Chocolat would not be possible without Ivory Coast, the world's biggest cocoa producer. I meet one chocolatier from the country who's trying to get more Ivorians to join her in turning more Ivorian beans into Ivorian-made chocolate bars. But first, in Tanzania, voting day in the economic capital, Dar es Salaam, ended in a curfew, an internet blackout, and soldiers and protesters on the streets. Presidential and parliamentary elections went ahead amidst mounting accusations of repression levelled against President Samia Suluhu Hassan's administration. Our regional correspondent Bastien Renouy tells us more.
If I'm in Nairobi today, it's because it's almost impossible to get a press accreditation to cover this election. According to several human rights organizations working on Tanzania, it was not a free, fair and transparent election. And the two main opposition parties, Chadema and ACT Wazalendo, were not allowed to run in the election. Tundu Lissu, one of the main leaders of Chadema, is still in prison. He's accused of treason. And during the past months, several opposition members were either killed or kidnapped. But despite that, 17 people are running in this presidential election, including the outgoing president, Samia Suluhu, and we know for sure that she will be re-elected. Now the questions are about the turnout. Did many people come to vote in this election? We don't have the answer so far. And was it a peaceful election? And the answer to this question is no. In several parts of the country, many demonstrations took place. Some of them were violent. Some polling stations were attacked. Some ballot papers were burned. To try to calm the country and to stabilize the situation, the government shut down the internet and ordered a curfew starting at 6 p.m.
Our correspondent there, Bastien Renouy. Now, the WHO says that at least 460 people have been killed in the RSF paramilitary seizure of the Darfuri city of El-Fasher. Reports have mounted of the brutal treatment of civilians caught in the middle of the battle with the army for control of the regional capital. War broke out across Sudan in 2023. It's caused the world's worst humanitarian crisis and threatens to split the country in two, with the RSF controlling most of Western Sudan and the army holding the north, east and centre. Civilians have borne the brunt of the violence.
Accused of committing mass atrocities in El-Fasher, the commander of Sudan's Rapid Support Forces acknowledged abuses had taken place and said he launched a probe into the allegations.
Violations have taken place in El-Fasher. The committee will immediately start to investigate and hold accountable any soldier or officer who committed a crime or abused their position against any person.
The announcement came amid growing reports of mass killings and atrocities by RSF fighters following the city's capture. Witnesses describe harrowing scenes of soldiers going from house to house, indiscriminately beating and shooting people, while others told stories of ethnically motivated killings and rape. On Wednesday, the UN said over 450 people were killed inside the city's Saudi hospital after RSF fighters opened fire on doctors and patients alike. The international body called on the paramilitary group to immediately put an end to the violence and protect civilian populations.
We can't stress enough that civilians, humanitarian workers, medical personnel must always be protected. And once again, we call on the parties to halt hostilities, guarantee the safe passage for civilians and aid workers, and ensure sustained humanitarian access wherever it is needed.
Tens of thousands of people have fled El-Fasher in recent days and have begun to pile up in already overcrowded camps. But over 170,000 others are thought to remain trapped in the North Darfur city.
Well, to Zimbabwe now, where political tensions have been ratcheting up over the ruling ZANU-PF's moves this month to extend President Mnangagwa's plan to go beyond his constitutional limits. Now, that is due to see him exit in 2028. Sharon Mazingaizu breaks it all down for us.
The Southern Africa Political Economic Series, SAPES, their building was gutted by fire in a suspected arson attack. Ibo Mandaza, director for SAPES, reported that unidentified men threw a petrol bomb into the building just after midnight on Tuesday, 28 October. SAPES was scheduled to hold a press conference announcing a campaign to oppose the ruling party ZANU-PF's plans to extend President Mnangagwa's term in office beyond his constitutional limits. Recently, ZANU-PF had endorsed President Mnangagwa's term in office by 2 years, potentially keeping him in office until 2030. The endorsement would require a constitutional amendment, as President Mnangagwa is mandated to leave office in 2028 after serving his 2 elected terms. The ruling party ZANU-PF has instructed government to start the constitutional amendments to facilitate the move. Previously, President Mnangagwa had said that he is a constitutionalist and he has no intentions of staying in power beyond his elected 2 terms. But his loyalists and the ruling party have been pushing for him to stay in office beyond 2028.
Sharon Mazingaizu there for us. Now, Nigerian literary icon Wole Soyinka says that he thinks his recent criticism of US President Donald Trump may have been the reason for his visa rejection to the States. The 91-year-old Nobel Prize-winning author taught there before and used to have a green card until he destroyed it in 2017 in protest over Trump's first inauguration. Soyinka thinks that his recent reference to Trump as the white Idi Amin may have blacklisted him in the US. He says that he is okay with that, though, and if anybody wants to find him, they know where to do so, and that he would not be applying for another visa anytime soon. A group of South Africans reportedly led a daring breakout by human trafficking victims from a compound in Myanmar notorious for cybercrime. The SKPs had reportedly been lured to Thailand by false job promises before being forcibly taken to the compound. Tom Canetti brings us more details from Cape Town.
It's believed there are about 1,000 victims of human trafficking who escaped this compound in Myanmar near the border with Thailand. And it all began when 4 South African men led this secret prayer gathering, and during that gathering they overpowered armed guards, breached the gates of the compound and sparked this mass escape. The South African government has confirmed that 41 of its nationals were in the compound and 39 of them are being treated urgently by Thai authorities. Basically, these people were lured via social media, via these false promises of legitimate work, accommodation, and salaries. And once they arrived in Thailand, they were forcibly taken against their will to this compound known as the KK Park, which is notorious for human trafficking and cybercrime. And back in March, the South African government actually rescued about 24 of its citizens from this exact same compound. And they told local media in South Africa and the government that if they refused to take part in the scams, they were tortured and beaten, and they were usually working 16-hour days. The South African government has confirmed that these latest victims will be repatriated in early November.
Tom Canetti there for us. Now, the great and the good of the chocolate world is in Paris at the moment for the Salon du Chocolat. It's a sensory experience with chocolate being explored, experimented and exchanged in all its forms. But at the root of all of this is the cocoa production business. Ivory Coast is the world's leading producer of the raw product that so much of the chocolate the world craves is made of. but very little chocolate itself is produced there. Now, Dana Marouye is trying to change that. The award-winning chocolatier is pushing for the Ivorian identity to stick with the chocolate for a little longer. Dana, thanks so much for coming in, taking time out of your chocolate whirlwind to come in and speak to us about some of the work that you do. So you are Ivorian. From all that you've seen in growing up in the country, why is it so hard to turn the raw product, the cocoa, into chocolate? Is it a logistical barrier or is it more of a cultural one?
Thank you, Georgia, for having me here. I'm so proud to be here and to represent our team in Ivory Coast, in Abidjan. So thank you so much for having us after almost 10 years in the industry. It's such an honor. So thank you. And we have been in the business doing bean-to-bar chocolate for almost 10 years. We're starting to see a new habit, a new trend in consumer consuming bean-to-bar raw chocolate in Ivory Coast. It's not in their habits, but we're starting to see it since like 4 or 5 years ago. We can see it's a new trend.
So you were saying, when we were speaking ahead of this interview, that it's not kind of culturally embedded to eat chocolate itself. People are more used to the raw cocoa.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
also in terms of the landscape and of the logistical landscape, is it difficult to get all of the processes that you need to process the raw cocoa and make it into chocolate? Is that difficult in Ivory Coast?
We have to import our machinery, of course, and it's also about the mindset. We have to convince local that we can make some good excellence chocolate there in the producing countries, because we had in the last few months 2 awards from the Chocolate of Excellence.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to our team. So it's first to convince our team that we can do it. We can handcraft good products, excellent chocolate there, and then our customers, our consumers, that we can do it, we can make it, and also abroad, build bridges and show that we can make good chocolate also there.
I think one of the things that really stood out to me when we were chatting before is that you actually tailored the product that you make to be more appealing to Ivorian palates and actually Ivorian conditions. So what did that take? What did you do on that front?
So we're an Ivorian person is used to the actual taste of the cocoa beans, but not the taste of the chocolate. So we're making an organic raw chocolate, so it does taste like the natural bean, and we keep the benefits, the nutrients of the cocoa beans, so it does bring something they know, ring a bell. They all have an uncle, a brother that have a farm, so they really know the taste of this. And also, we don't add any butter, any oil. It's very pure. Only 2 ingredients: cocoa, raw cocoa, and brown sugar.
So that's super interesting. So in processing the cocoa, you actually process it less to make your chocolate. Yeah. Super interesting. So you're Ivorian in that your family grew up in Ivory Coast, but also, you have a lot of other heritage, namely specifically Lebanese, and you've kind of lived around the world as well. Do you think this kind of global perspective has helped affect the lens through which you see this project in your home country?
Yeah, I'm lucky to have multiple heritage to let me see other culture, other mentality, but I want to be clear. The success of Mon Choco is 100% Ivorian team. Is thanks to a 100% Ivorian team, and I'm part of this team. And this baggage gives me the opportunity, the chance to see new trends, new opportunity. For example, bean to bar is a new trend. So thanks to this culture, multiple culture, I saw the new trend. I saw the raw trend and the very 2 ingredients, very pure. It's a new trend to have very few ingredients, quality ingredients, and that's where we are heading to.
Thank you so much, Dana Mouroye, for all the work that you and your team do in Ivory Coast to make the most out of the raw product from the world's biggest cocoa producer. That, though, is all we have time for Eye on Africa. Thanks very much for joining us, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.
On October 27, 2005, 3 young men fled the police check in the Parisian suburb of Clichy-sous-Bois. They took refuge in an electrical substation where Zayed Benna and Bouna Traoré were electrocuted to death. This tragedy led to 3 weeks of unrest across France, shining a spotlight on the social unease in some of France's poorest suburbs. Has Clichy-sous-Bois emerged from the turmoil? Watch Clichy-sous-Bois Revisited on France 24.
Culture hits the spotlight on France 24.